So thank you all for being here today. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to present to you the 2018 labor law updates. And all of them, with a couple exceptions, are California. So I do want to say, this is my quote, what you don't know about HR can cost you in a bad way. So that's one of the things that I do, is help my clients be well-informed and be compliant. So this is just a quick overview of what we're going to be discussing today. So the first thing is ban the box on job applications. We'll go dive into these individually. So salary history, you may not ask what their salary history is. California statewide pay increase as well. There is an IRS mileage reimbursement adjustment in that rate. Contractors are now liable for their unpaid subcontractors. So we'll talk more about that. And non-exempt employees are now entitled to a day of rest. That sounds really interesting, doesn't it? Non-exempt commissioned employees are now entitled to paid breaks. Those are like inside sales. Immigration enforcement requirements. That's imposed on the employer. Paid family leave has a change. Baby bonding leave is now SEFRA 20 to 49 employees. And we'll talk more about that. And then notifications that employers are required to give for victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, or stalking. There's been additional requirements added to the mandatory sexual harassment prevention training. We'll talk about that. And then there's even more additional requirements. And those are, some of them are how it played out in court cases and how the courts are now enforcing the laws. Because that's a lot of what happens with labor laws, is they'll have a law and there might be a little bit of ambiguity, and then a lawsuit ensues. And then the courts will define that. And they will either define it, they will somehow maybe overturn it, send it back to the legislature for clarification. There are other things that happen. So just so that you know, this is an ongoing change all the time. In fact, I'm informed on a daily basis of what's going on in the courts and how those are being redefined. So for hiring purposes, ban the box on job applications that ask if a candidate has a criminal conviction. And you'll notice that I've indicated this is the law and code, so that in case you're really interested to dig into that, you can look it up. So they want to give people a chance to have jobs, people that have been convicted of crimes. So how you deal with this is if you only give job applications to those people who you've already decided you're going to give them an offer, or you have given them an offer already of employment. You can ask that question of people that you are contingent offer of employment if you must have that. And the government is really asking employers, you need to open your minds to giving people a second chance if the job does not have a requirement for or to protect the employer from a certain criminal conviction. For example, now Roger and Elaine have an accounting firm. They have, as an employer, they have very sensitive information about their clients. So they need to have the full-on background investigation, make credit check and all of that, and that's justifiable because of the kind of business that they have. So they can, that is easily justified. There's not going to be an issue. Should a candidate take them to task on that. However, if you own a McDonald's and you're asking somebody, and all they're doing is making French fries, do you really care if they've had a criminal conviction? It would be hard to justify that. Another thing that's new this year is you cannot ask the salary history of a candidate for a job on the job application. So if it's your practice in your company to give candidates, that used to be the thing, right? You go and apply for a job, fill out an application, they have all these things they want you to fill out. And one of those was your salary from your previous jobs. You can no longer ask that, ever, of a candidate, of an employee, whoever. And the reason for that is they're trying to get people that have previously been discriminated against and their salaries were kept low because it was on their job application. So they would the new employer would only offer them maybe the same or a little bit more than what they were previously making. And so what did that do? People of color and women, typically who were paid less, stayed down. So this is trying to level the playing field to make pay equality, make that easier to happen. And then one other thing, or a couple other things, when you hire, you also must give the new family leave brochure. So I don't know, a lot of employers, it's common, they don't understand everything that they need to give a new hire. But that's paid family leave brochure is important because that law changed. Also, notification of rights of victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking also have their own notification that they must be given. Now this actually came out in 2016, that this law was added, but the government put together like a flyer with the notification of all of the rights for those victims so that they know. Now, it's commonplace if you have an employee handbook, you put it in there, but that's usually not the first thing an employee is going to look at as they're looking through like all the leave of absences and so forth. But they are given quite a bit of, these particular victims are given quite a bit of leeway. And as an employer, even if this applies to any size company, even if you have 2 employees, this applies. So keep that in mind. Some employers think, oh, I only have 4 employees, this doesn't apply to me. Yes, it does.